supported William and Mary coming to the throne, is suspected of Jacobite connections because of his connection to because of his marriage to this Italian aristocrat. So beyond that, I can't figure it out, but it is an interesting connection. Now we can get into the second last slide. This goes back to Walpole, and this is a quote from a biography of de Moivre by Matthew Matty, written in 1755. And this talks about de Moivre coming to England, when he first came to England. It says, the tide of religious persecution which forced many French people to flee to other countries undoubtedly caused Mr. de Moivre to move to England. At least I find no other reason why, nor can I say with any precision when he did so, except that he was living there in late 1686, as proved by the following anecdote, which he related to me personally. Once, when he was on his way to pay his respects to the Earl of Devonshire, that's the person who became the first Duke, a distinguished patron of belles lettres and mathematicians. That's a problem because he was booted out of the Royal Society for non-payment of dues. He saw a man unknown to him leave the Earl's house. The man who turned out to be Newton had just left a copy of his Principia in the antechamber. Mr. de Moivre was ushered into the same room and took the liberty of opening his book as he waited for the Earl to enter. The illustrations it contained led him to believe that he would have no difficulty reading it. His pride was greatly injured, however, when he realized he could make neither head nor tail of what he had just read, and that rather than I have trouble reading, I guess. Rather than propel him to the forefront of science as he had anticipated, his studies as a young scholar had merely qualified him for a new development in his career. He rushed out to buy the Principia, and as the need to teach mathematics as well as the long walks he was thus forced to take around London left him scarce free time, he would tear out pages from the book and carry them around in his pocket so he could read them during the intervals between lessons. So the intervals, he was going to various aristocrats' houses, teaching them at the house, and then walking on to the next house, reading the Principia while he was on his way. Well, that's an interesting story, but there's a lot of problems with the story. First off is the year was probably 1689 rather than 1686, because the documentary evidence, de Moivre shows up as a refugee at a church, a French church in 1687. So de Moivre did not arrive in England in 1686. Newton, of interest, is Newton was a member of the Parliament in 1689. It was called to make William and Mary officially monarchs. The Principia was written in 1687, so he couldn't have been at the Duke's, couldn't have got a copy of it in 1686. It was published in 1687. Newton did not distribute the book. Edmund Halley distributed the book. He sent out all the copies, gave Newton a few copies, but Newton did not arrive in London until 1689. So de Moivre, the story then is probably 1689 rather than 1686, and he probably needed a letter of introduction to the Earl, and he probably got that from Abraham Muir, who was at that time famous for his work at Saumur. And the Earl was one of those who had invited William of Orange to come and take the British throne. So it's possibly intelligence that Devonshire wanted from de Moivre, because de Moivre knew someone high up in Louis XIV's government, a fellow named Louis de Merol. De Moivre met him in prison while de Merol was in prison, and before de Merol got sent off to the galleys, de Moivre was talking to him in prison. It's recorded in memoirs of this martyr, because he died in the galleys. And so it's probable that the Earl helped de Moivre start his career as a tutor. And then it moved in through Walpole, being closely connected to the Devonshires. And through Walpole's connections, De Moivre then fanned out his tutoring career throughout the politically connected and the landed interests. Also, he did a little bit through Newton, perhaps through Fouquier, but the evidence is Newton was almost unconnected, or unconnected to almost everyone on the list. So Newton did not have an influence, much of an influence in De Moivre's knowledge community. And that is it. Thank you.